Hi, my name is Podliska. I just finished my 7th year teaching in the Red Oak Community School District. Getting into a little bit of personal intro, the biggest things in my life are coaching and being outdoors. I'm a high school wrestling coach, assistant football coach. I bike a lot. I've done the last 4 RAGBRIs. I ran a 20K last weekend. That was my first one. Family's huge to me. I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. They're all married. I've got a couple nephews, a niece. I don't have a wife or kids myself. I do have a dog named Zadok. So those are big things in my life. Professionally, like I said, I've been here for 7 years. Red Oak is a smaller school district in rural Iowa. Pretty low income, around 80 kids in a graduating class. In my 7 years, I've taught 13 different classes. I've been on the student assistance team working with different interventions. I was a technology coach for half-time for 1 school year. Like I said, head wrestling coach, assistant football coach, link crew, student council sponsor. Exciting things in our school district. We just started construction on a new school, so we're really looking forward to that. As far as reflection goes, I've worked with a lot of different administrators in my 7 years. Having started out at the middle school and having different principals at the middle school and high school and having turnover in our administration quite a bit. We've had new superintendents, a couple new principals, new AD, assistant principals, things like that. I look at all of them and they all kind of had things that they were good at. One of them was really good with special education. He worked more with that and in his past, so that was really a strong point for him. One of them used to be a curriculum director, so he was really good dealing with curriculum evaluations. I had one who did really thorough evaluations. They took a great deal of time, and you really got quite a bit out of them. I had another that dealt with evaluations and wasn't very thorough. You didn't really get anything out of them. It was just kind of, you sat in there and he checked off a bunch of boxes and you weren't even really sure if he was in the room. Biggest thing for me is being a lifelong learner, and I've dealt with, like I said, good administrators, not so good administrators, and I like to use my experiences and take as much as I can from the positive and then even take the negative and look at what was negative about it and see how I can change it and adapt it. As far as clarity goes, dealing with different issues. We have a ton of different issues that come up in the 21st century classrooms and school districts, and just learning about them and then coming up with clear expectations and guidelines and things like that, so that if something arises, you solve the problem, and then if it arises again, you've set out clear guidelines. I know in the wrestling room, expectations and guidelines are big for me. I don't like to look at a kid afterward and say, well, you did this, so this is now the consequence. I don't like to make up consequences for kids that don't know that they even did anything wrong. So I feel like in the 21st century classroom, that's really important, both as an administrator and as a teacher. So that's something I challenge myself at. As far as critique goes, of myself dealing with state and local and national laws and board policies and things like that. Recently, I've become a little more versed dealing with board policies and some national standards and things like that. We worked on changing our social studies curriculum as we've moved from 4 social studies teachers down to 2, and we offered all the same courses. We tried to make a more manageable social studies schedule for me and the one other social studies teacher so that I didn't have 9 different classes to prep for and he only had 2. So we tried to find some common ground there and see what was essential and what wasn't. Lifelong learning, examining legislation, challenging myself. I wrote all those things down because critiquing myself, I don't know a great deal. So I'm going to challenge myself that when issues arise in the classroom and in my school district, I think I'm going to approach them under a different lens and really examine, why did my administrator make this decision and was this the right decision, and, talking to them and really learning from them. As far as my plan to help myself improve, using my resources, building relationships with all those different administrators I've had and teachers, going back to them and taking the positive and the negative and learning from them. I like to learn as much as I can and use those resources as long as I can. You know, I still call teachers that I student taught with or that I taught with in the past. I know they did this activity which the kids really liked, and I can take that into my classroom. Or maybe they did this and it wasn't as good, and how can I make it better? Through this course, I hope to learn a great deal dealing with all these different things, talking to my peers, you guys. You know, I don't know you yet, but I'm looking forward to building some relationships and taking as much as I can from the positive and maybe working together to overcome some of our negatives. Once again, looking at my own handbook and board policy and challenging myself and looking at the legislation behind it and saying, you know, how can we improve this? Why are we making the decisions we are? And how can we be the best that we can be? So I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks.